Imagine a family, once at the forefront of a national movement, suddenly vanishing without a trace. No goodbyes, no forwarding address, just an eerie silence. This is the chilling story of Madalyn Murray O'Hair, her son Jon Garth Murray, and her granddaughter Robin Murray O'Hair, who disappeared from their San Antonio home in August 1995. Madalyn Murray O'Hair, famously known as the most hated woman in America, was a polarizing figure. As the founder of American Atheists, she championed the separation of church and state, often with a fiery and confrontational style that earned her both fervent supporters and bitter enemies. Her son, Jon Garth Murray, served as the organization's president, and her adopted granddaughter, Robin Murray O'Hair, was its secretary. Together, they formed the core of American Atheists, a powerful, albeit controversial family unit. Their sudden disappearance on August 27, 1995, from their San Antonio, Texas office and home, sparked a mystery that would take years to unravel, revealing a tale far darker than anyone could have imagined. Madalyn Murray O'Hair's journey to notoriety began long before 1995. Born in 1919, she rose to national prominence in the early 1960s with her landmark lawsuit, Murray v. Curlett, which led to the Supreme Court's 1963 ruling banning mandatory Bible reading in public schools. This victory cemented her status as a leading voice for atheism in America. In 1963, she founded American Atheists, an organization dedicated to advocating for the rights of non-believers and challenging religious influence in public life. The organization, headquartered in Austin and later San Antonio, Texas, became a significant entity, accumulating substantial assets, including real estate and a considerable amount of money, much of which was controlled by Madalyn, Jon, and Robin. Despite their public image as staunch advocates for their cause, the family's financial dealings were often opaque, and they were known for their reclusive lifestyle, which would later complicate the investigation into their disappearance. The first signs of trouble emerged in late August 1995. Friends, colleagues, and even family members began to notice the O'Hairs' unusual silence. Phone calls went unanswered, and their office appeared deserted. Initially, notes were left stating they had gone on an extended vacation or were dealing with a family emergency. These notes, however, seemed out of character for the meticulously organized family. Speculation immediately ran wild. Given Madalyn's controversial public persona and the organization's substantial funds, theories ranged from them absconding with millions of dollars to going into hiding to escape public scrutiny. Some even suggested they had been kidnapped by religious extremists, a fear that had always lingered given the threats they often received. As days turned into weeks and the silence persisted, law enforcement officially launched an investigation. The initial stages were fraught with confusion, as investigators struggled to piece together the last known movements of the family and discern fact from the myriad of rumors surrounding the O'Hairs. The investigation soon turned its focus to a man named David Rowland Waters. Waters was a former office manager for American Atheists, a convicted felon with a history of violence, including a prior murder conviction. He had been fired by Jon Garth Murray shortly before the disappearance, reportedly for stealing $50,000 from the organization. Waters harbored deep resentment towards the O'Hairs, particularly Jon, and saw an opportunity for revenge and financial gain. He meticulously planned the kidnapping, enlisting 2 accomplices, Danny Fry, a petty criminal, and Gary Carr, Waters' half-brother. Their motive was clear: to extort money from the wealthy O'Hair family. On August 27, 1995, Waters and his accomplices abducted Madalyn, Jon, and Robin from their San Antonio home. They were held captive in a San Antonio motel room, where they were subjected to torture and forced to sign documents transferring millions of dollars from American Atheists' accounts into Waters' control. The kidnappers then moved the family to a remote cabin in Texas, continuing their brutal coercion. Over the next few weeks, Waters attempted to withdraw funds using the O'Hairs' bank accounts, but the large sums and unusual transactions raised red flags with bank officials who alerted authorities. These financial trails would prove crucial in unraveling the conspiracy. The case took a grim turn when, In January 1999, the dismembered body of Danny Fry was discovered in a rural area of Texas. Fry had been murdered by Waters and Carr, reportedly because he was becoming a liability and demanding a larger share of the ransom money. The discovery of Fry's body, and the subsequent investigation, directly led authorities to David Waters. Waters was eventually apprehended, and facing overwhelming evidence and the threat of the death penalty, he confessed to the kidnapping and murder of the O'Hairs. In exchange for a plea deal that spared him from capital punishment, Waters led investigators to a remote ranch in Camp Wood, Texas, where the remains of Madalyn, Jon, and Robin Murray O'Hair were finally discovered in March 2001, more than 5 years after their disappearance. The remains were badly decomposed and dismembered, confirming the horrific nature of their deaths. Waters detailed how the family had been brutally murdered, their bodies dismembered with an axe, and then buried in shallow graves. The motive was purely financial, driven by Waters' greed and his deep-seated animosity towards the O'Hairs. David Waters was sentenced to 60 years in prison for the kidnapping and murder. He died in prison in 2003 from lung cancer, taking some of the full truth of the events with him. Gary Carr, his accomplice, was also convicted and sentenced to life in prison. The American Atheists organization struggled in the wake of the family's disappearance and the subsequent revelations. While it continues to exist today, it never fully recovered the prominence it held under Madalyn Murray O'Hair's leadership. The tragic end of Madalyn Murray O'Hair and her family on the 29th of September 1995 remains a stark reminder of the dark side of human greed and resentment. It's a story that began with a controversial figure fighting for her beliefs and ended in a brutal act of violence, leaving behind a legacy of both activism and an unsolved mystery that captivated a nation. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe so as not to miss future episodes of The Calendar of Crime.